Mid-season F1 driver changes are always dramatic and seen as a last resort, with Red Bull usually leading the way. But this time, it's another team making headlines. Williams is heavily linked with dropping one of its current drivers in what could be a massive gamble to secure a top prospect for the future. Rumors have swirled about Williams replacing the struggling Logan Sargeant, particularly around his home race in Miami. Speculation even suggested the Miami Grand Prix could be his last, with teenage rookie Kimmy Antonelli being a potential replacement. But who requested this surprising move? Let's dive into this video today to find out. Kimmy Antonelli has just started a private F1 testing program with Mercedes. He's a surprising but legitimate contender to drive for the team next year, following Lewis Hamilton's shock move to Ferrari. At just 17 years old, it's amazing that he's at the center of a mid-season driver switch storyline. However, since he'll be 18 in August, he's not yet eligible for a super license due to the minimum age requirement. Despite having enough points from his Italian F4 and Formula Regional European Championship wins, Antonelli also can't get a regular driving license in Italy until he's 18, making him ineligible on that count too. Antonelli's current ineligibility is why the prospect of a Williams move has become public. The FIA has confirmed it received a request for an exemption to grant Antonelli a super license early. The governing body says officially it's looking into this request, but there's a process to be followed requiring multiple people and commissions to vote and agree to it, since it involves a rule change. It's surprising that the FIA has gone on record about this, as individual superlicense queries often go unanswered. For instance, details about Colton Herta's superlicense ineligibility were impossible to verify a couple of years ago. What's next for Antonelli? The information about Antonelli suggests that someone relevant wants to know if he can get into an F1 car during a Grand Prix weekend early. There's not much information about the request itself, so we don't know all the details yet. The fact that Antonelli is even being considered for such an opportunity at his age is remarkable and shows the high regard in which he's held within the racing community. For instance, there's a super license specifically for Friday free practice sessions. This license allows drivers to participate in these sessions, but still has the same age and driving license restrictions as the main super license. Mercedes has stated that it has not approached the FIA to get Antonelli a super license early, which has led many to believe that Williams might have raised the question informally. It might be that Mercedes or Williams wants to know if Kimmy can drive in Friday practice sessions sooner rather than later. Every team is required to run a rookie in 2 Formula 1 sessions each season, so this might be more than just a precautionary measure. Rumors about this issue swirled during the recent Miami Grand Prix. When asked about replacing Logan Sargeant with Antonelli, Williams boss James Vowles didn't completely rule out the possibility. He mentioned that he hadn't spoken to Kimmy directly since Abu Dhabi last year, and that Williams is still assessing its 2025 driver lineup. In terms of him coming into the car this year, it's a meritocracy. Logan has to earn his seat, Vowles said. He added that Logan is in the car and will remain in the car, but there seemed to be an unspoken "for now" at the end of his statement. Vowles also claimed there is nothing on the radar at the moment for replacing Sargeant, but this leaves room for it to become a possibility in the future. Mercedes boss Toto Wolff has stated that an imminent F1 move isn't happening for Antonelli, but this doesn't rule out an early one. Wolff's comment leaves open the possibility that, while Antonelli might not be moving to F1 immediately, plans could still be in place for an early debut. While we're not expecting Antonelli to suddenly appear in the Williams at Imola, we can't rule out it happening later this year. Mercedes could be open to the idea, depending on their driver choices for 2025. This consideration arises because of Logan Sargeant's extended, unconvincing start to his F1 career. Sargeant wasn't ready for the grid last year, but was pushed into an early F1 graduation due to a driver dilemma Williams faced for 2023. Since then, he has struggled to match teammate Alex Albon, with only one inherited points finish to his name and several crashes. His main setback this year was beyond his control when Williams benched him in Australia so Albon could race Sargeant's chassis after a practice crash. Williams has repeatedly backed Sargeant but set formal targets for him to meet this season. While these targets are not publicly detailed, they broadly require Sargeant to start challenging and beating Albon more consistently. For the most part, Sargeant has fallen short, though he did technically beat Albon in Miami when Albon had his best lap deleted in sprint qualifying. Williams's considerations. Moreover, Sargeant is not Williams's biggest problem at the moment, as their underwhelming 2024 car has yet to score a point even in Albon's hands. However, the situation has led Williams to evaluate whether they need a more competitive second driver in the short term, not just next year. We understand that any chance of a Williams move for Antonelli depends on him going there for a couple of years. This suggests that while Williams has other junior drivers in its academy, such as Antonelli's F2 rivals Zach O'Sullivan and Franco Colapinto, it might consider Antonelli for a longer period. Mercedes is open to the idea of Antonelli joining Williams, depending on their 2025 driver lineup decisions. This flexibility could influence whether Antonelli makes an earlier than expected debut. The prospect of Williams taking on Mercedes' highly touted youngster, Kimmy Antonelli, is clearly appealing. But what does Mercedes want? Antonelli bypassed Formula 3 and jumped straight into Formula 2 this season at just 17 years old. While he hasn't scored a podium yet and is currently 9th in the championship, he has compared well to his teammate, another highly rated F1 prospect, Ollie Bearman. Despite a challenging start for his team with the new F2 car, Mercedes isn't worried about Antonelli's form and is more focused on his development. Mercedes is still considering Antonelli for a 2025 drive. They need to decide what's best for his progression. Theoretically, a quick Williams apprenticeship this year could be useful for a full-time Mercedes seat next year, but this could also be disruptive. It would mean cutting short his time in F2 and compromising his F1 testing program. A more mutually beneficial arrangement might be for Mercedes to sign someone like Carlos Sainz or, ideally, Max Verstappen, allowing Antonelli a multi-year stint at Williams similar to George Russell's path. Antonelli is so young and inexperienced that continuing his F2 season alongside testing old Mercedes F1 cars should propel him quickly along a steep learning curve. There has been intense speculation about his maiden F1 tests in 2021 and 2022 with Mercedes machinery at the Red Bull Ring in Imola. Reports suggest he performed very well, but these performance levels and lap time comparisons are often exaggerated due to the many variables in testing conditions and the absence of a benchmark driver for comparison. Williams boss James Vowles has not ruled out replacing Logan Sargeant with Antonelli mid-season. Vowles stated, "In the case of him coming into the car this year, it's a meritocracy. Logan has to earn his seat." Although Sargeant has struggled to match teammate Alex Albon, the main setback this year was beyond his control when Williams benched him in Australia to let Albon race Sargeant's chassis after a practice crash. The prospect of an Antonelli move. The upcoming Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix has drummed up interest in the possibility of a mid-season driver switch. Mercedes is satisfied with how Kimmy Antonelli has performed in tests, avoiding any major incidents. Antonelli's testing at Silverstone recently involved a benchmark run alongside Mercedes reserve driver Mick Schumacher. This has intensified speculation about his future. Williams boss James Vowles has emphasized that Logan Sargeant must prove he deserves his seat. As the current driver, Sargeant's fate is in his own hands. He will likely get a few more races to try and save his position. If a change happens, it is expected to occur after the summer break. Antonelli, who turns 18 on the day of the Dutch Grand Prix, would still need early permission for a super license to compete. Alternatively, he could debut a week later at Monza for the Italian Grand Prix, although that would pressure the young driver significantly. A debut at Zandvoort would allow Antonelli to acclimate before facing a home crowd in Italy. Williams needs to decide on their strategy soon. Speculation has outpaced reality, as seen during the Miami Grand Prix where Sargeant had a mixed performance. Although he showed good speed, he failed to secure a solid result. The Sargeant has said he is not letting speculation affect him, but his demeanor suggested otherwise during the Miami weekend. His radio messages showed his frustration after a Q1 elimination and a clash with Kevin Magnussen in the race. Despite these setbacks, it was arguably Sargeant's best performance of the season compared to teammate Alex Albon, with Vowles noting that Sargeant didn't put a foot wrong in the race. For Sargeant to keep his seat beyond this season, he will need more strong performances with actual results. The decision on whether to replace him with Antonelli remains contingent on Sargeant's ability to improve and Williams' long-term plans. The coming races will be crucial for both drivers' futures. So what do you think of the Williams' shocking mid-season F1 driver swap? Comment below your views and subscribe for more such videos.